Thank you, Sina. Namaste. So glad to be here again. I can't believe how quick these weeks go. It's just crazy. So I wanted to look into something today that looking back, it wasn't really, I was talking with someone yesterday. I had a conversation about relationships and awakening, and sometimes how they don't quite seem to go together. And I never really quite remembered until I'd had this conversation just how problematic it had been working the kinks out of some of the relationships that I have. And it got me to thinking about the whole process of integrating my own awakening into my relationships. And I thought that might be a useful subject to talk about, because everything really in life is relationship, whether it's relationship to another being or a family member or somebody that we're working with, whether it's relationships in a sangha like this, whether it's our relationship to money or our relationship with our work, how we feel about it, how we interact with it. And of course, most importantly, our relationship with ourselves is not always the easiest to navigate. And you may have found, as I did, that if you have had some measure of clarity about what you actually are, that you're indivisible, formless, that you are before birth and after death, still here, completely everywhere, omnipresent, to whatever degree you've seen that, it can have this effect on your relationships that they begin to, some of them for me began to become more full of friction, more problematic and challenging to navigate than ever before. In fact, it was really the opposite of what I thought would happen. I thought that I'd have this seeing, naively, like I guess we all do. And everything in my life would magically, start looking perfect in this way. But it really wasn't like that. It was more a question of having to really apply what I was seeing to my relationships, what I'd seen about myself. So even theoretically, we can know that in any relationship, there isn't really two. There is the one being that is expressing itself as two human beings in whatever relationship that is, whether it's a friendship, romantic relationship, family, friendship, a boss and a employee, whichever way it's showing up, it will have this particular dynamic to it. And one of the things that wasn't really obvious to me was that I was asked to make a shift over in the way I functioned in my relationships, from how it is as a separate being to how it is as the self, as the awakened condition itself, as the the noumenon, the silence, whatever you want to call it. And it wasn't obvious immediately how to do that, because even theoretically we know, or actually we know, that we're not separate to this other being in the relationship. But how do we come to allow the self to express itself fully as this relationship? As the self experiencing itself as a relationship, it can be an ever deepening intimacy between yourself and this other being. Instead of what we tend to experience as human beings is this kind of back and forth. Both of you want something different and you end up making some kind of compromise. It can be a much more deeper intimacy than that. So it began to become clearer to me that I was still dividing myself from this other being, separating myself from this other being in the relationship, with what I actually wanted from them. All of my relationships, when I looked, as I began to examine them, I was looking for something from that being. So in some relationships, I was looking for, well, in all of my relationships, I was looking for approval from my parents, from my siblings, from my children. I wanted worthy. I wanted to feel worthy. I wanted to feel loved, safe, valued, appreciated. And, these are pretty much everything that everyone is looking for. And as a separate being, when I thought I was a separate being, it really worked mostly, for the most part, that I would play my role in a relationship and the other person would play their role. And we both learned what we wanted from each other on some subconscious level. If you give me some sense of being liked, I'll make you feel safe. It's kind of what we're all doing with each other. If you approve of me, I'll approve of you. I'll validate you if you validate me. And it's not, I'm not judging, of course, it's just the way our separate sense of self works. It feels incomplete. And it's always looking for something. And even in my relationship with my work, I was looking for validation. I was looking for worthiness. And you could say, well, everybody's looking for something. And these mechanisms will work relatively well as a separate being. But as you begin to wake up more, you might begin to find that they're breaking down, this trying to get something from another being. And really, all of our ways of being in a relationship, we might have to relearn that. So for myself, I had to ask what I was trying to get from this person, and maybe what are they trying to get from me as well. So if I'm approaching a relationship, still functioning from my old way of being in this relationship, where I'm asking another being, of course, without verbally, we don't really say this verbally, do we? I want you to make me feel safe, or please make me feel loved, or make me feel accepted, or please like me, and then I'll feel better about myself. But whatever it is that we're seeking, we don't really say it verbally, but our whole behavior, our whole way of being, even the reason for the relationship can be to get something out of it. And again, there's nothing wrong with that at all, except it doesn't really work, does it? We're asking people to give us something when they don't have what we're asking for anyway. It's hard for someone to give us approval and recognition when they're looking for their own sense of worthiness too. They're looking for a sense of security from their relationships too. They're also coming to this relationship with you with a list of things they would like fulfilling by you. And so most relationships tend to settle into this push-pull, very gentle, sometimes not so gentle tug of war. I'll give you what you want if you give me a little bit of what I want. And all of that began to break down in a spectacular way. Relationships that have been fairly harmonious began to become very unharmonious, let's just say. And it forced me to stop and take a look at what am I asking for from this being? And if you have a relationship that isn't functioning so well in your life right now, you can stop and ask yourself, what am I looking for from this person? Maybe you know what that is. And the two staple ones that everybody wants is to feel loved, to feel safe. And you can throw in worthiness into that too, and feeling valued, needed, approved of. And if you can't quite figure it out, you could ask yourself, when this relationship's going well, how do I feel that I don't feel when it's not? Sometimes that gives us a clue. Or if this relationship disappeared out of my life today, what would I seem to lose in that? And so recognizing what it was that I was looking for, it began to become clear that I was asking for something on an energetic level from a being that didn't exist. They're not separate to me, not outside of me. They are my own self. The more clearly I began to see that, the more this mechanism of push-pull began to really break down. And so I had to find a different way to get that. Whatever it was I was seeking from someone else, it really took me some time to figure out that I had to allow this to come from the inside out. So I began to, you know me in questions, I love questions. I began to ask, what am I looking for from this being? And can they really give it to me? If they don't have it, even if they did exist as a separate being, and there really were two beings in this relationship, can they really give it to me if they're also running on empty, if they're also trying to get everything they need from the outside in, from their relationships, from their work, from their parenting, if everything that we're doing in life is really to get us something on some level that we don't feel we have, can we get it that way? And as I sat with this, more and more, this other question began to appear. Why am I so sure it's not already here? So if I'm looking for safety, a feeling of security from a relationship, it must be because I don't feel safe now. And if I don't feel safe now, can any amount of trying to get it satisfy me? And it just felt like I was getting these scraps of what I needed, these tiny amounts that were just enough to survive emotionally, but didn't leave me feeling fulfilled. And maybe you can identify with that, can recognize that in your own life. So this question, why am I sure it's not here, began to become really important. Whatever it is I'm looking for, why am I so certain that it's not here? Why have I spent my entire life trying to get it from the outside in? And this is really, quite shocking, quite fundamentally shocking for me, the realization that my entire life had been based on all of my relationships, that I'd never really experienced the true unfolding of a relationship, because my behavior and everything was aimed at trying to please people so that I got what I needed from them. And we can be doing this in any relationship, any at all. People even try to do it with their teacher, their spiritual teacher. It goes right across the board. And right from when we were children, looking for certain things from our parents, from our siblings, from our friends at school, and on it goes. I'm looking for something from my education. When I get my education, then I'll feel a way that I don't feel now. When I get the right job, when I have a family, when I get a car, and on it goes. And then eventually when I wake up, I'll feel this way. When I have realized the self, I'll feel this way that I don't feel now. Again, all based on this assumption that what I want isn't here right now. And I began to see clearer that if I assume something is missing from my experience in this moment, because my body and mind aren't experiencing that right now, I assume it's missing. But maybe my body and mind aren't experiencing that right now because I'm assuming it's missing, not the other way around. So I began to question what happens when I start from the recognition it must be already here. Can I turn my relationships inside out? Can I allow what I want to flow from inside out? What's it like when I come to my relationships feeling already fulfilled, feeling already worthy, feeling already safe? What's that experience like as a human being? And what does it do to the other person in the relationship when I do that? When there's more than enough for myself and for the person in the relationship. Whatever it is they're looking for from me, they can have in abundant supply. They can have as much as they want because there's an endless supply here. It began to transform everything, everything. First of all, as I was saying before, my relationship with myself. What is it like when I don't need anything from myself? I'm not demanding anything from myself. I'm not withholding approval and love from myself until I reach some stage or something happens. I'm not withholding it at all. When I just allow it to come from the inside, what is that like? Confidence and kindness to yourself and love and this simple recognition there is no good reason ever to withhold love from yourself and approval. If you don't like yourself, how is the rest of the world going to like you? If all of this is a mirror of you, if you are everywhere and you don't like yourself, you won't give yourself love. And it's going to be very hard for anyone else to show how much they already love you. And even if they do, you somehow won't be able to accept it or receive it or even see it. It will be momentarily seen and then kind of blocked from memory. So what are you looking for? And is it true it's not already here? and what happens when you walk into a room with another being and this push, pull, tug of war collapses? Because you don't need anything from them. Maybe for the first time ever, you don't need anything. It could be as simple as switching to this question, why am I sure it's not here? My whole life, I've run on this assumption that it's not here, that I have to get it. And, can that be true for you, the infinite being, the self? If you are omnipresent, infinitely powerful, then is it really true that you are lacking anything in this moment? And we have all experienced not having enough of these things: approval, recognition, worthiness, safety, security. Maybe it's this simple assumption that it's not here. And what happens if you start from now with this question? Why am I so sure it's not here? And, can I be a source of it rather than trying to get it from other beings, which makes them on some level unconsciously, energetically stand back from me and need to defend themselves against my asking somehow on some level, because they don't have enough of what we're trying to get from them anyway. What happens when I come to this abundantly flowing with this thing in my energy, kind of silently saying, have all that you need, take all that you need, because the more you take, the more is given, the more is supplied. And this simple thing just changed every single relationship that I had. And it allowed me to just be with somebody for the first time, to really meet someone for the first time. Even sitting with spiritual teachers, watching satsangs, things like that. Never really met them because I was so desperately trying to get something from them the whole time, as I'm sure we all are. But finally, to rest as the infinite source of everything, where it's coming from. You are where it's coming from, and pouring out into the world, showering everyone that you meet. And it changes your entire existence. What would your family be like, your family relationships be like, if you didn't need even your romantic partner, if you didn't even need them to tell you that they loved you, if you just loved being in love with them and they felt so completely loved by you that neither of you needed anything from each other at all, and it was simply about being with each other, and all of your relationships were like this, where you came into a relationship already full, what would that feel like? And maybe you can get a taste of it, where you are that wellspring, that infinite supply. And people, everybody around you then begins to feel that you're no longer asking constantly with your energy, please give me this. And they're not defensive then in their energy, because they don't have to guard their limited resources of what you're trying to get. Of course, none of us are doing this consciously. It's just the way that we've been taught to function in relationships, thinking that we're a separate being and cut off from the source of all good things like this. So what are you looking for? And why are you sure it's not here? Just because you aren't experiencing it in this moment doesn't mean it's absent. And what happens when you challenge that assumption? And, can you really get it from somebody else anyway? Has that ever really worked in a consistent way? And for me, it was like driving to the nearest petrol station and putting just like a pound of petrol in my car, just enough to get it over the red line, and then I'd drive to the next petrol station, do the same thing and the same thing, the same thing, just running on empty the whole time. And instead, you're coming out into the world with a full tank, and you can never take anything out of it without it immediately being replenished. And apart from the obvious benefits of that, you feel alive, you feel passionate, you feel fulfilled, you feel complete, you feel worthy, you feel loved and loving, you feel compassionate, all of that. People begin to recognize that they're safe with you then, because you're not demanding anything. You might be the only person they know that isn't asking anything from them, and they can finally relax. Maybe for the first time in a very long time, they can finally relax. And they might not even know why, they just feel kind of nice when they're with you somehow. And it's okay, isn't it? Don't need to know. And it's one of the best things about awakening, being able to turn your relationships from trying to get everything from the outside in to being the inside out source and supply. That line in the Bible, God so loved the world that he sent his only son. This is it in action, isn't it? This is it in action. You want to intuitively, you want to pour this love and this infinite supply out to everyone you meet. What would happen if just everyone here now on this meeting did this and inspired everyone you meet, one person each of us, to do it, to fill themselves up so full, to not tolerate any idea that there can be anything missing from your experience right now, identifying what you feel you're lacking right now and demanding to see that it's already here. Staying with that until your body and your mind begin to experience it. But first, if we're asking for love, I'm sure it must be here right now. I'm determined to allow it to come from the inside out. First, you'll notice that just as a sense of relaxation in the body. It might be very subtle at first. As you stay with this over 2 or 3 days, you begin to feel very, very different. And everything around you begin to change as well, because everything can sense. Every human being can sense everyone's aura, energy. They might not know they're doing that. When you touch upon something or someone that is so radiantly full, they know it somehow. And it's like a drink of water after you've been dying of thirst. It's like a warm fire when you're freezing. Just this simple thing allowed me to integrate, to live this. And I really hope I'm inspiring you to kind of, it's not really a challenging thing. It's just to recognize I've been trying to look for this outside. And it seems even more crazy to try to look for it outside when you realize there is no outside. It's not really gonna leave you fulfilled. And there's only a few things that we really want anyway, isn't there? Most of us just want to be loved and want to feel safe and want to, be liked or approved of, or whatever the word is, respected. So I just started with, I want to feel safe right now. I want to feel safe. Why am I feeling unsafe? It must be from some old idea about myself, that I'm something perishable, finite, and limited. Have I ever really truly been unsafe? If I am the infinite consciousness that's everywhere, have I ever been unsafe? It seemed really convincing that I was unsafe when I thought I was a body that was born and is going to expire at some point. And it seemed to make sense that I thought I wasn't lovable when I thought I was some imperfect being that had to work hard to get back to some kind of perfection, somehow, some imaginary place. But has that ever been really true? If you are the source of all this, and as you connect back with the source of everything good within you, once you open that tap, it begins to flow and you enjoy it so much, and you see the effect it has on everyone else. You open that, you turn the tap full on, and there is no limit. The more you ask of this presence, the more it gives. It really is infinite. You have enough love within you, within you, for the whole universe. And the more people you give this love to, the more there is to give. It's a supply and demand thing, or a demand and supply thing, whichever way around you like it. And this one thing, when you get it, it really flips your whole life on its head. Your whole life begins to then be an exploration of what it's like to be this love, to be this consciousness, to be this source, rather than someone trying to get something constantly and never actually receiving. Moments, tiny moments where I felt slightly adequate and reasonably safe, compared to overflowing love and self-respect, self-approval. And then that's mirrored back by your environment. Everything agrees with your wholeheartedness, your fulfillment in here is mirrored and echoed out there. So I hope I've inspired you to have a look at relationships, and it might be why certain relationships are struggling right now, are challenging for you right now. If this is what you're going through, then you're not alone, because it really is the process of awakening, isn't it? Looking at what we need from our work. What am I trying to get from my work, from my children, from my siblings, from my friends, all of that. And then simply challenging the idea that it's not here, then you have to get it. If that fundamental assumption is wrong, it's actually our trying to get something that makes it seem absent. And if we just stop doing that, resting here, it begins to make itself known. You are that powerful, you know, that if you believe something is missing, you'll experience it as absolutely gone. Okay, time are we on? Well, if anybody would like to ask any questions about this, or if you have a particular challenge or anything you'd like to share, invite you to just speak up or raise your hand if you want to. Shauna. Always got such a lovely smile.
I'm all lit up, Helen. This is so awesome. Oh my gosh. Believe it or not, we talked about this last night in a Rhoda's program. And I was looking at relationships and specifically, and I was looking at what happens in relationship with me. And I saw that I want something from everybody. And it was awful. I almost couldn't speak it. There's just, oh my God, I can't believe this. But the scene was so freeing.
Yeah.
And then I just sat with it last night, and, you know, waves of guilt came up, and I just let that happen. But you gave me the next step, is to ask the assumption that it's not already here. Oh my God, thank you so much. And I just love the way you explained how once I live from this, I can actually meet someone for the first time. I'm not seeing a concept of something I need from them. So yeah. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. It's quite shocking, you know, for me. Never really met anyone without this need, this want in the background. And when that goes, it is a shock, like you said. Yeah. I'm so glad it helped. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Would anyone else like to share something? Any questions or any challenges? Okay. Is that Diana?
Yes.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Nice to meet you.
Yes, I find what you're saying is so very liberating. I could see myself smile, just being like, I can let it all go. I don't have to ask anything from anyone, and I don't have to give anything to anyone because I have everything already. So, of course, the little monkey mind was a little bit receptive. Yeah. But I have noticed that, yes, it is getting easier in a way with all relationships, because while I'm kind of playing with Regina's program with loving everything. And that's making quite a difference already. And the fact also that it's, yes, you're meeting someone for the first time. I have noticed that I even have I had a friend that came yesterday, and at one point we were just chatting and exchanging, and every time she comes, she brings me a gift.
Mm.
Anyways, she's so very giving. And at one point I was like, okay, what can I give her? Like, it was a weird feeling. And but you kind of gave me the answer. Like, it's just and of course it's also to just receive with a really open heart. Like, I think sometimes I'm having trouble receiving.
Yeah.
I still feel that it's all conditional. And and also I find I wanted to ask you a question about I'm taking care of my mom who is in the beginning stage of Alzheimer's.
Mm-hmm.
So of course I'm her primary caregiver. She's still able to live on her own, but I do feel like I'm not doing enough. So I understand that I'm separating myself. I'm back into being a personality in a world. I understand that. And I've noticed just a little comment that she will say, then I feel like I'm being attacked, but I'm not reacting as much, which is,
That's brilliant. That's really good.
yes, good news. But I do, yeah, I guess it's just the practicing of stepping back and just seeing that she's me. I'm creating her. She's in my
and
world.
looking, if you felt that you had done enough, if you really felt, okay, I've really done enough, how would you feel then that you don't seem to feel now? And that gives you kind of the essence of what you're looking for from that relationship,
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably worthiness and acceptance and approval.
Yes.
They're quite heady drugs, aren't they, to get from someone? They're kind of like, whoa, I need this. But just switching over, as you're saying, and that's naturally occurring, isn't it now, this switch over of the way, and just in time as well, if you're going to start having to spend more time together, as the relationship continues, it would be really nice to have it in this place where you're not needing anything from it. You're just there and you love her and you're taking care of her.
Yeah.
And it's not taxing you because you need something out
Mm-hmm.
of it. Yeah, that becomes increasingly exhausting, doesn't it, as you?
Yes, it does. And what I like about it, it brings you into a whole different state of mind.
Yeah.
Like, instead of being already in a kind of a defensive state, it's not peaceful. It's not peaceful, So I see that it was always kind of a way that I was reacting automatically, just out of habit. So
We're like walking around as a set of buttons, just waiting for somebody to push one with something that they say. It's a very difficult way to live.
Yeah. So anyways, it's amazing when you finally discover yourself and see that everything is for your own growth. So I just want to thank you very much for all that you do, and also the awareness programs that you guys offer. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And Alzheimer's can be very, very challenging. It's gonna and I don't need to tell you that it can be very quite demanding situation for you. So it's really good for me to know that you're going into that with an open heart. And just very quickly, what you were saying about receiving, not being able to receive as well. It's a common thing, isn't it? It's just coming to that, recognizing it's just an area I'd like to improve. I'd like to improve in my ability to receive, but how I am receiving love and all of that, how I am right now is okay. in a very non-judgmental way. I'm doing my best, and it would be nice if I could receive a little bit more, and just softly, softly with that, it'll just open up, and you can.
Yes.
It's very hard. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say what resonated with me from another teacher that I just heard also, it was to keep the heart open, because I noticed that it was conditional. So I was, oops, I better protect myself. So I was closing the heart. So how can that unconditional love flow when you're closing your heart? As soon as you feel a little bit of trigger or something, or it's not going your way. So yeah, it's wonderful when you realize you get to decide what you want to feel, see, experience every second of the day. So that's,
you know, for me, accepting, it took me the longest time to accept that somebody could just love me as I am, you know, and I'm sure all of us struggle with that one, that I don't have to change or anything, that I'm lovable as I am. Once I finally got that, or it was a work in progress, the heart just stays open anyway, because there's less and less need to kind of put these walls up, you know, that we all do. Wonderful. It sounds like you're right on track. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. And then what I realized too, yes, it's all blockages or walls that you created because you didn't know any better. So that's what I find now. It says, okay, well, now I know better. So it's like you said, it's good news.
It's non-judgmentally. I needed those walls before, and now I don't.
Yes.
You know, so I'm going to see if I can let them go, and if I can't, it's okay. You know.
Yes. Yes. Like that's something I want to be more open to just be okay with whatever is coming up, and to love it, and to just, okay, I'm learning here.
Yeah, I'm doing the best I can.
Yeah, and it's to be the happy learner, like A Course in Miracle, of course. That's a big shift, just to be the happy learner. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to talk to you.
Namaste.
Namaste. Colleen.
Hi, Helen.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Yes, it sounds like it.
I hope you are too now as well. I hope you feel a little good.
I am. Yes. Thank you. And I do have a challenge. It was a beautiful talk. For many reasons for me. Sometimes I feel very elevated in myself, and I want everyone to feel this way because they're all me, right? But you know, when I go somewhere, and I don't feel that same energy, it's real easy for me to slip out of it and go to the energy that's present. So I'd like techniques about that, to maintain my true energy self, particularly because I have a friend about 2 hours away who is losing her body, right? And it's a painful, slow, hard problem. There's still a lot of anger and resentment and fear and remorse, and I don't have that same thought about what's coming, what's happening, and I'm trying to clean up all this stuff now. So when I get to the end, whenever that may be, I just go easily.
A peaceful, peaceful passing.
Right, and don't have any of the residual stuff that is either left behind for people who still have a body, the beings who still have bodies, or, you know, another thing that I need to clean up the next go. So I guess those are some challenges that I have right now, right? Maintaining the truth in energetic form, and I guess, and holding that space when there's resistance to my knowing of truth.
Well, I think the most important thing I learned about this was it really taught me what love actually means for myself. You know, if I'm sitting in meditation and I feel amazing, you know, and like you're saying, in that very high place, and then I go to see someone and I can feel my energy dropping, some very tangible shift in frequency. What am I going to do about it then? What am I going to say to myself then? Because the very first thing that most of us do is to say, I shouldn't have let this happen. And I should be able to get back to that place or maintain it, as you were saying, you know. And the moment that we judge ourselves like that, it's impossible then to get back to that place. So there was a real learning to love myself in sometimes it's going to dip. And as I watch it, feel it start to go south, you know, then I can look and see if I'm judging myself for that. And if I can just drop that in that moment, it's okay that it's dropping. It's okay that I don't feel as good as I did. I don't have to like it, but I'm not going to blame myself for it. And then the amount, how far down it goes and how quick it takes me to get back, it is shortened. You know, what really piles onto this kind of energetic drain is our own judgment of ourselves in that moment. You know, is it true you should be able to maintain this yet? Well, if you could, you would. And if it's dipping, can you be a little kinder with yourself in that moment? So, you know, I hope that helps you with the first bit, does it? Do you feel?
Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Good. And with the second bit then, one of the most surprising things for me was that everybody didn't want to, you know, they didn't want to necessarily know this wonderful, amazing truth that I just discovered. And in fact, some people are outwardly very resistant to it, you know. Is that kind of what you're talking about? Yeah,
absolutely. There's that, but there's also no, I don't know that there's so much. There are, of course, some people who have resistance, but these are not the people I'm going to be seeing. I don't think it's that so much.
mm-hmm.
It's watching myself, not being the one to tell everyone how it is for them, right? How here's you know what I've learned from Helen, and look how wonderful this is, and just do it and it'll be wonderful for you too, right? So everyone's got to come to their own understanding of this.
That was the most challenging thing for me, completely. And I had to look at why do I want to tell them this? Why do I want them to see this? Why do I want them to wake up? Why do I want them to be happy? And it sounds like a strange question. Why do I want someone to be happy? Of course I want someone to be happy. I want everyone to be happy. But the more clearly you've seen what you already are, the more that you want someone else to be happy, the less helpful that is to another being. So as a separate being, if I wish you to be happy, that's going to be a helpful thing. But as the self, if I'm asking or needing or wanting something for you, I'm kind of stating in my energy that it's not already so. And I know that's a challenging thing to take on board when someone's really suffering. But if even it's begun to backfire on me, this, if I wanted them to wake up, if I wanted them to come out of suffering, even if I wanted them to be happy, it began to have the opposite effect on people. And I had to drop even those intentions, like just meeting that person as they are, whatever place they're in vibrationally, and however far they've come on their journey. What happens when I drop even those good intentions and those good desires and those higher wishes for them. Because if I want someone to wake up, I found this in a real right in my face way as a teacher. If I want you to wake up, I'm actually stopping you from doing it. I'm impeding it, because I'm saying very powerfully, it's not already so. And this becomes more and more important as your field, you're seeing what you really are is making your energy field bigger and wider and stronger. And it's going to have a more powerful influence on someone else. So when you're there with someone and you don't want anything from them or for them, then it begins to turn something around. It takes a little practice, because these desires for people to feel better, to feel happier, they've been with us for such a long time. You know, a desire even to serve the world, a desire to serve the Sangha, a desire to contribute, even a desire to be more compassionate eventually has to go, because it brings you back into separation and lowers your energy field. So I don't know if that's helpful.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I can see if I want someone to be at peace, I'm affirming that they're not at peace.
And of course it looks like that, doesn't it? If their body and
does.
mind is in a particular state.
Exactly.
But the best thing you can do for anyone is to come from that place where you know they're not really suffering, who they really are, even though they're believing their thoughts, of course, still. And they're not ready to come out of that yet, that's fine. But you can set the tone energetically. And and of course, then you can do and say whatever you want to help. But from that place, it will be really effective then.
Right,
It
right.
was a real lesson for me, this one, that life had to, slap me with a couple of times. Because we want to help, don't we? We want
Right.
people to be happy.
And hasn't that been the theme of my life? Right. So, and what, to those who've been given much is requested or required, and why not just send it back out there? Send it out there, sure. But
when you see what happens when I don't demand even this of people, even if I come to a satsang not needing anybody to get anything I'm saying, something magical happens, and when I come desperately wanting you guys to get it, it's a different thing. And it's the same for you right now. Whatever our desire is, ultimately it's going to be lowering our energy field, because it's saying it isn't so already. And it seems that way, of course, but just seeing our intention is creating the experience of seeming lack of what this person needs.
Right. Yeah, this has been very helpful.
It's pretty much the crux of everything. Everyone is, we wouldn't be in a group like this if we didn't want everyone to be happy, would we? So it's, it was quite a painful lesson for me, this. So I'm glad you brought it up. It's very challenging sometimes.
Right. And just to say that initially there was something that I wanted from her. I wanted her to accept my help in this process that she's going through. And it related back to when I was a very young adult, right? Not doing this when I was asked to do this by a relative. And I was kind of talked out of it. There was a part of me that wanted to do it, but had great fear to do it. And so going now, 40 years on, I could not have done it earlier. So I did get something. I did get that understanding and release of any residual remorse or guilt around it. And now I'm just showing up to show up.
Just to recognize I couldn't have done it before. That's huge, isn't it? That's absolutely huge.
Right. Right. And then with that comes just more love is revealed, because it's the truth. right? So then, yeah,
It just destroys the should have, would have, could have, and that's going on inside you.
right. That I live
So,
with for like 40 years, right?
yeah,
Because
it's constant, isn't it? In our head, we should have,
right.
and
Yeah.
you couldn't until you could, and then you did.
Right. And even now it's really challenging, but
Yeah.
right. So that's why I'm talking about this. So I definitely, it's wonderful. I have more of me to look at.
And this is relevant to everyone, right? We're all dealing with this that you're talking about in some relationship somewhere in our life, aren't we? So it's it shows up in different ways for each one of us, but it's right across our whole human relationships is this guilt, regret, and all of that we struggle with for so long. We carry it for so long, and what a relief to be free of it.
Yeah.
Well done. Definitely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank
See you later.
Yeah. Bye. Okay, that's our time is pretty much up. Wow, where did that go? Thank you, Sina. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for all your wonderful input. Namaste.